There are a handful of airlines out there these days that I think are good, but have many of the hallmarks of an airline that could be truly fantastic, and I think LOT Polish Airlines squarely fits into that category. At first glance, you might look at their aircraft interiors and somewhat rightfully think they're well behind the curve. But between gorgeous new interiors that they've announced and an onboard experience that leads with charm, LOT Polish Airlines has the potential to be one of my favorites in the future. By the way, if you're ever curious about the price that I paid for this flight, or the equipment that I use on a daily basis while traveling and creating, all of that can be found in the description below. Let me welcome any of you that might be new to the channel. My name is Kevin. I'm here to give you a self-funded and honest look at some of the best, most unique, or simply most popular airlines and hotels in the world, which I've been bringing to you full-time for 5 years now. I'd love for you to know more about how I do things on the channel, so simply scan the QR code or check out one of my hundreds of videos to do so. Let's get into the trip report. Welcome to Berlin. Right now I'm heading to Berlin-Brandenburg Airport, an airport that was first conceived on paper when I was in kindergarten, began construction when I was in college, and finally opened the very same week that I was filming my first video for this channel. For the record, I'm not 25, so my point is, it took a hell of a long time for a variety of reasons that are too numerous to count. But finally, here we have her. It would seem that there is not a curved line anywhere in the airport. It's all very minimalist, but without the sense of calm that the Nordic minimalist airports bring with it. Anyway, today we're flying to Mumbai with LOT via Warsaw. First on an Embraer for the short flight to their hub, and then on one of their 787s over to India. I'm guessing the check-in counters don't open until 2 hours before departure, as there were no staff in sight at just under 3 hours. Founded in 1928, LOT is the flag carrier of Poland and was originally created as a private company, contrary to many of the flag carriers at the time. During the war, they evacuated most of their aircraft to Romania, who eventually seized most of them. So after the war, when the airline re-emerged as a state enterprise, they began a collection of a very motley fleet of aircraft, starting off primarily with Soviet-built frames. Lisunovs, to Se-161s, to Ilyushin 12Bs, 14s and 18s, and Tupolovs, they all came on board. Beginning in 1957, post-Stalinism, they began to take on some more Western aircraft as well, from Convair 240s and Viscounts to even more Soviet Tupolov, Antonov, and Ilyushin frames. After passing through security and the duty-free, my gate was all the way to the left, and the Lufthansa Lounge was all the way to the right, so I'm glad I had enough time to make it all the way over there and back. If you're enjoying the video and would like to support the channel, there are many ways that you could do so. A quick like on the video and subscribe helps videos with the algorithm. You could join my YouTube channel memberships to get early access to some videos and access to all of my community posts. Or you could check out my Patreon, where I post the most, and can help you out with any travel-related questions. Whatever you do, thanks for doing it. The Lufthansa Lounge was bright and split into a few different intimate spaces with a nice selection of breakfast on offer. LOT's livery is one of the oldest out there, but in a way that's very similar, I think, to ANA's livery. It's still very much up to date, especially with the red tail cheat line, or whatever it's called on a tail, that they've added. The livery has been more or less the same since 1977, but the logo itself was designed way back in 1929. LOT has a streamlined fleet of Embraer regional aircraft, 737s and 787s. They were the first European carrier to fly the Dreamliners. In the coming years, they'll be replacing all of their Embraers with 40 A220s that they have on offer. Let's get on board our first flight, which would be on a 6-year-old Embraer E190. Brace yourself. This is Euro business class, of course, on a regional aircraft at that, but luckily LOT does block the adjacent seats on their Embraers, something that many other European carriers don't, even in business. Embraer seats are generally nice and roomy in the width department, but legroom was not their strong suit here today. But it's just a quick flight. Let's get in the air and we'll be served a light lunch. We had small menu cards in the air, which was a nice touch. The chilled lunch was juicy roast beef served with asparagus, cherry tomatoes, and mustard cream sauce. That came with roasted sweet potato salad with chickpeas and cheese sauce. The roast beef salad was delicious. The sweet potatoes were good as well, but I do think that there should be the slightest indication on the menu that this is not a cheese sauce, this is a blue cheese sauce. My taste buds felt a bit violated. Let's go for 7.2 out of 10 overall. Restrooms on board were spotless and had an impressive mix of products for a regional aircraft. When we began our descent, the crew passed around candies to round off the quick 300-mile hop. And here we are in Warsaw. Now, you may be looking at this and thinking, wait, was this filmed like during Christmas? Nope, this was not winter. And yes, it's snowing. I was walking around Berlin yesterday in a t-shirt and shorts, and now I'm freezing my butt off thanks to some unseasonal gusts. Warsaw's airport is manageable in size and pretty straightforward. After passing through immigration, I headed downstairs to the business class lounge. About this lounge, I just have one question. Why is it so small? I ended up sharing a table with someone, and frankly, the airport didn't even seem that busy. Did I miss a massive and glorious flagship lounge somewhere else? Size aside, there was a nice spread of food on offer, with very attentive kitchen staff replenishing it frequently. Here's our ride to Mumbai, a 12-year-old 787-8, the third Dreamliner to enter their fleet. I stepped on board, was warmly greeted, and made my way to my seat in the third row. I remember when LOT debuted this cabin, and even back then people questioned the fabric choices, and I do now still as well, but I give them credit for one of the best maintained seats that I've seen with over a decade in service. Some other airlines that I've flown on with this exact same seat, and younger, are not faring as well. When flying business long haul, you want all aisle access, and I'm with you. But that doesn't change the fact that this seat, as a seat, is still really comfortable, and has enough legroom so that most people would be able to fairly easily step over their neighbor if they were lying down. That said, LOT did announce some gorgeous new interiors coming earlier this year. Unfortunately, they won't be retrofitted for quite a while, but we have a beautiful cabin to look forward to, and it made a lot of the soft product items on this flight make sense, leaning into their dark navy roots. Pre-departure drinks were passed around, and then, in a first for me and this channel, I was served a pre-departure mushroom. Just give me a pickled egg and a slab of kielbasa and I'm a happy camper. The safety video began just after the doors closed and we pushed back. I should mention off the bat about the crew. In my experience, airlines that are majority government owned are not typically the pinnacle of service excellence, but today's crew were superb. Charming, poised, very attentive, and just all around very friendly. Just a quick side note, as of this video essentially, I'm going back to a truly chronological posting order of my flights and hotels combined. That means that sometimes there won't be a single hotel video for a month, February for example, or sometimes the majority of the videos in a month, April for example, will be all resorts. This will just help me streamline my own mental timeline as I juggle a new project that I'm working on for 2027. let's take a look at some of the comforts for today's flight. There's a mattress pad, which is much more like a sheet, but it's better than nothing. The blanket I wasn't a fan of. I have what I think is a perfectly reasonable aversion to any fabrics that pill a lot, and so this one was not at the top of my list. For the pilling indulgent bunch of you in the crowd, it would be a nice option. The pillow was a good size, perhaps a bit overstuffed, but better than the alternative. Would definitely help for a good sleep. My favorite item though were the slippers, which were sporting the logo and a really nice quality. It would seem that LOT is in direct competition with American Airlines in the smallest hot towel competition. "40 minutes after takeoff, the first drink service began, which included some warm mixed nuts and some very generous pours in beautiful stemware. Before we get into the meal, let's take a look at the menus, which, in their own right, are some of the most beautiful menus that I've seen, genuinely. LOT is leaning into this dark navy and gold thing, and I think it's working for them very well. The prices on the wine list are my addition to the graphic, just to give you an idea of the value on board. Of course, they're free to drink. For the first course, it was a choice of roasted potatoes with Polish cottage cheese or lentil and tomato cream soup. I could have happily had either one, so I asked the crew to choose for me. The soup was flavorful and just hot enough, served with a tiny little side salad. For the main dish, there were 3 options: fried chicken with potato dumplings, cod with rice and fried okra, or spiced cauliflower with wild rice. 3 unique options, I thought. I went for the chicken, which was served on beautiful chinaware. The chicken portion itself was on the small side, but overall, it was a delicious and satisfying meal. After dinner, there was a traditional dessert and after-dinner drinks cart that came down the aisles. Very beautifully presented, and I think one of the nicest touches that any airline can do these days. The desserts on offer were slightly different from the menu, and I ended up going with the cheesecake with an almond sandesh on the side. The full meal overall is going to come in at an 8.9 out of 10. As we take a look at the in-flight entertainment, let me explain how well LOT handled an operational issue from my flight. 2 days before my flight, I got a call right after I landed in Berlin. It was LOT. My heart sank. There was a very nice agent on the other line who informed me that the flight had a small operational issue, and so they were looking for a volunteer to switch to another flight. I was on a reward ticket booked through Air Canada, so I knew I would be first on the chopping block if it came down to that. They didn't elaborate what the operational issue was, but I was assured that if I did decline the offer of €600 plus another flight, I would not be downgraded or declined boarding. I explained that I had a connecting flight in Mumbai, which was true, and really couldn't make the switch. Out of curiosity, though, I asked what the other flights could be. One was on Air France, and the other was on Qatar Airways. Arguably my 2 favorite airlines for business class. I really wanted to switch, but also, I really wanted to try LOT, and so that's what I did. I give them a lot of credit for reaching out and clearing this up ahead of time instead of dropping it on the gate crew to take care of at the last second. In retrospect, I believe that this was the operational issue. One seat in business class had a problem with the seat controls. After a few hours of rest, the lights slowly started to raise and hot towels were again passed around. Before breakfast is served, let's take a look at the amenity kit. I really like this amenity kit. Navy blue corduroy is not the first material I think of for an amenity kit, but somehow it just felt really elevated and unique. Inside were the standard toiletries, along with a very, very fancy eye mask, and some branded socks, which I was happy to add to my collection. Restrooms on board were clean throughout and had some products on offer. I started off with a real espresso before the breakfast tray was served. On offer was a croissant with cheese, quail eggs, and peppers, along with an omelette with tomato salsa, sauteed mushrooms, and spinach, rounded out with a bit of fruit. This was a great full-size hot meal considering it's just a 7-hour flight. The eggs were actually pretty tasty as well. No rubbery artificial texture. Overall, an 8.4 out of 10. Just before descending into Mumbai, the crew came around and thanked each passenger individually for flying with them and offered some candy. From the professional way that they handled the broken seat, to the very charming service, the good food, and most importantly, some of the subtle touches pointing to them trying to elevate their in-flight experience. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with LOT, and will put them at a 7. A nicer lounge and all-aisle access would easily bring them up a notch or two. So I really do hope that you enjoyed this trip report today. If you did, please be sure to click that like button and subscribe for new videos each week. I'll see you next time on Air Mauritius. As always, thanks for watching until the end.